2026 was insane! This season didn't just drop anime, it dropped absolute chaos! We got a romance adaptation that split its fan base, one of the most unhinged anime I've ever seen, and Jujutsu Kaisen, while reaching mainstream appeal, might be on the verge of falling off. So I figured, why not step out of my usual content and talk about anime that caught my eye this season? Now, I'm not going to be talking about everything. If you want the full season breakdown, check out Mother's Basement. I'm just going to be talking about the ones I've watched, and the ones that really stood out to me. And trust me, some of these takes are going to piss a lot of people off. Alright, let's start with one that's going to make a lot of people mad. Tune into the Midnight Heart, which isn't as bad as people are making it out to be. Now before you all decide to kill me in the comments, hear me out. I've been reading the manga for a while now, and while yes, the anime is definitely a step down from the source material, it's nowhere near the dumpster fire people are making it out to be, because the way some people talk about it, you'd think they completely butchered this series. The premise is pretty solid. The story follows Yamabuki, a boy who is obsessed with finding a mysterious broadcaster named Apollo, somebody he unknowingly fell in love with. After years of searching, he narrows it down to the 4 ghosts in his high school's broadcasting club. So he vows to help them, while at the same time trying to figure out which one is Apollo. It's a fun setup, and like I said, the anime isn't awful. The real problem is that romance anime have been on a roll over the past couple of years. The Dages in My Heart dominated winter 2024. Cloverworks basically owned that summer with the triple combo of the friggin' Flowers Bloom with Dignity, My Dress Up Darling, and Vasco Does Not Dream of Santa Claus. So when you compare Midnight Heart to those series, it felt like this one got the short end of the stick. And when that first episode dropped, it wasn't pretty. It skipped content, underplayed jokes, the animation was stiff, it was a mess. And when you combine that with the sky-high expectations people had, you can understand why they were ready to riot. After this episode aired, I went to the series subreddit to share my thoughts on it. I thought it was alright despite its flaws. However, I knew episode 2 was either gonna make or break this series. To which it doesn't do either. And that's the best way to describe this series. Because when the show hits, it really hits. Episodes 5 and 6 are easily the strongest this season. Episode 6 even had anime original content that was actually pretty good, which completely caught me off guard. In that same post, I also predicted that people who found the series through the anime would love it. And it was around this time that the series started breaking into the top 10 in anime ranking sites like AniTrends, which is a big deal. To give you an idea of how much weight AniTrends has, when Uma Musume won Anime of the Year, the director thanked the site, which says a lot. But when this show misses, it misses hard. As episodes 3 and 7 are easily the worst the series has to offer, reaching levels of, dear lord, what happened here? So you end up with this weird situation where the show is good, but frustratingly inconsistent, as the voice actors are doing a ton of the heavy lifting since the animation can't keep up, as if it weren't for them, this would have been the disaster people claim it is. So here's where I land. If you're an anime only, you'll probably like it. But if you read the manga, I don't blame you for being disappointed. It's flawed, but it's definitely not the trash fire people are making it out to be. My hope for season 2 is that they learn from their mistakes and give it more time, because there is an amazing adaptation buried in here. Alright, enough of that disappointment. Let's talk about a romance anime that actually delivered. You and I are polar opposites, which was not on my radar at all, and which is what Midnight Heart should have been. I saw people talking about it on my timeline, so I figured I'd give it a shot. So I loaded up episode 1 and it blew me away. You've got Shizuki, a loud, expressive extrovert who falls for Tani, someone who's quiet, reserved, and barely says a word. Classic case of opposite attracts. But here's what makes this show different. Instead of dragging out this will they won't they nonsense for 3 seasons, they go straight into the relationship. And that's what makes this show so special, because instead of building up to something we already know is coming, the anime focuses on what happens after. The awkwardness of teen romance, the overthinking, the weird misunderstandings, it captures it all beautifully. Especially when you're in a relationship with someone who's your complete opposite. And it feels real. There are so many moments where you're watching it, you go, yeah, I've been there. In fact, it captures the teen spirit really well. It nails each archetype without making them feel one note. the cool laid-back girl, the eccentric dumbass, the critical overthinker. They all bounce off each other really well, and it's nice to see them grow throughout the season, with Shizuki being the highlight. She's chaotic, her expressions are over the top, and it's just a blast to watch. Especially when she's bouncing off Tani, as their dynamic carries most of the show. Now, there are side couples, but they're not as strong as the main one since they're stuck in the will they won't they phase. But they're still fun to watch. I also have to bring up the OP because that thing is incredible! As soon as I finished the first episode, I immediately tried to find it online, but couldn't find it anywhere. So I did what any logical person would do. Replayed the opening over and over again from the episode itself. Was it annoying? Yes. Was it worth it? Absolutely! This was easily the biggest surprise of the season. And then there's this anime, Chained Soldier, which was nowhere near my radar. So why did I decide to check it out? Well, when the second season began airing, my timeline on X was flooded with AI images of these characters. After seeing enough AI images, I made a deal with myself. I would watch the series, and whoever I found to be best girl, I would draw. So I watched episode 1 and I soon realized, oh, it's one of those anime. Now, I have to be extremely careful of what I show here, because if I'm not, YouTube is going to take my channel out back. So if what I'm showing you doesn't match what I'm saying, just use your imagination. Or don't. Actually, don't. There is an alternate universe called Mato full of monsters where people sometimes get sucked into it. And women are the only ones with powers who can fight them. Our main character Yuki teams up with Kyoko, one of the chiefs tasked with fighting them. She can transfer more token in exchange for a reward. And if you can't tell where I'm going with this, I seriously question your innocence, as this series needs into that hard. But it's also pretty fun if you get past that. The fights are great and have interesting characters with special quirks. But by the end of season 1, I still haven't found who I dubbed Best Girl. Sure, there were contenders, but none of them truly stood out. But that all changed during the first episode of season 2, as that's when she showed up. Ren Yamashiro. She didn't just debut, she detonated the series. As in her debut episode, she violated everyone on screen, beating everyone up faster than the eye can see, canceling abilities, and going as far as to send someone to the bottom of the ocean. She doesn't just steal scenes, she commits war crimes on the entire cast list. She can be playful and goofy 1 second, cocky and condescending the next, only to be the most terrifying thing in the series the following. It's whiplash in the best way possible. I haven't seen someone this cocky or overpowered since Gojo, and honestly, she might be worse. But like I said, this series isn't for everyone, as it needs into its extra elements every chance it gets. But if you can get past that, there's a pretty fun action series here. And the character songs are bangers too. You should definitely check those out. As soon as season 2 ended, I jumped straight into the manga and caught up within the span of a few days. It looks like the series is in its final stretch, so now is actually the perfect time to get into it. Especially since we'll soon get to see what Ren is truly capable of. Let's just hope she doesn't get the Gojo treatment. Speaking of Gojo, we gotta talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, because season 3 is where a lot of fans started to feel like the series was falling off. And just saying that is going to make me enemies. Now before you all get out your pitchforks and knives, hear me out. I'm not saying the series as a whole gets bad, but story-wise, it does get messy here. This is around the time Geki develops a weird habit of somehow over-explaining and under-explaining things at the same time, with the explanation of the card games being a perfect example of that. And even though the anime did smooth things out, it still felt confusing. So yeah, from a narrative perspective, it's definitely a step down from season 1 and 2. But the fight? Oh, they absolutely delivered! Choso vs Naoya became an overnight meme, Yuji vs Higurama was pure cinema, and the final episode, it was a feast for the eyes! It reminds you why this series blew up in the first place. However, some fans are nervous going into the next season, as there's been rumors that the series director, Shotai Goshizono, might have left MAPPA after this season. But honestly, I'm not too worried. This is MAPPA after all, and they have proven time and time again that they can deliver when it matters. Worst case scenario, we get a slight dip in quality, but nothing that will ruin the experience, especially when you realize that they cannot afford to mess up what's coming next, which is Gojo vs. Sukuna. If you were reading the manga when this was happening, you already know how insane this was. As this wasn't just a fight, it was a cultural event. It is something I'm excited to experience again, if only for the memes. Speaking of Mappa, let's talk about their other series that aired this season, Hell's Paradise. This is one of those shows that should be talked about more, but really isn't. The premise is simple. The series follows Gabimaru and a group of death row inmates that are sent to a mysterious island to find the elixir of life in exchange for a pardon. Sounds easy, right? But as soon as they set foot on the island, they realize that that place is a literal nightmare. And Season 2 really leads into that feeling. It isn't afraid to get gruesome, using disturbing imagery and an oppressive atmosphere to set itself apart. But despite all the doom and gloom, it still knows how to have fun, as the characters bounce off each other in light-hearted ways, which is a nice break from the existential horror. Gabimaru and Chobi are the highlights of this season, as when they start throwing hands, the show goes all in, delivering its best moments. Season 2 does a good job of expanding the lore of this series, delving deeper into the power system, learning more about the tents and making them even creepier, with the sense that something much bigger is going on than just escape the island, with the stakes being raised even more come the final episode, with a cliffhanger so strong it made me jump into the manga after finishing it. And that's how you know you did a good job. While it's not on the level of Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer, it's still great at what it does, and it's definitely worth watching. Now, if you thought Hell's Paradise wasn't talked about enough, this one is basically invisible, because Sentenced to be a Hero might be the most stepped on anime this season. I probably would have never checked it out if my good friend Shadow on X did recommend it to me, so shout out to him. In this world, being a hero isn't some noble title. It's not a calling, it's a punishment, reserved only for the worst criminals. One so brutal that not even death lets you escape, as you're forced to fight the demonic fairies over and over again, losing a piece of yourself every time you die. As for our main character Xylo, he gets thrown into this nightmare after being forced to kill the goddess he once fought alongside with, only to realize that this was all a setup. Yeah, this story gets dark real fast. Every episode pulls you deeper into this world, showing you just how truly twisted everything is. It's one of those series where you think you understand what's going on, only to hit you with something far worse. The animation is great here as well, which is no surprise since it's done by the same studio that does Jobless Reincarnation. But visuals alone don't carry this show. Xylo does, and that man is a menace. He offers a unique fighting style that is brutal and is unlike anything I've ever seen, as his dynamic with Terrorita gives the show a nice contrast. Sure, she might look small and helpless, but don't let that fool you, as she can hit like a truck. Just don't tick her off, as she has the temper of a child, especially when it comes to hit pats. Do not deny her hit pats. So you end up with this mix of dark world building, strong action sequences, and a cast that plays off each other really well. I was already interested after episode 1, but I was locked in by episode 3. And with how insane season 1 ended, I am more than ready for season 2. And then there's Frieren. And at this point, calling it great is pretty much pointless. It's the only anime to take the #1 spot from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood on my anime list and stay there. Everyone and their mother is praising this series, and rightfully so. If you watched season 1, then you already know what makes it special. It's not the amazing action scenes. It's how quiet, thoughtful, and ridiculously well crafted everything is. Even when it feels like nothing is going on, the series is doing something. Whether it's world building, character development, the slice of life moments that hit harder than most action scenes, even the mini episodes are fun to watch. The staff clearly loves this series, and it shows, such as making the ending entirely out of pencil, referencing its own meme, or expanding Frieren's tantrum, which is a single panel in the manga into a full-blown scene that had me laughing. It's one of those rare series that manages to exceed its source material, as it's not just a great adaptation, it's a masterclass on how to properly adapt a manga. So if you aren't watching it, what are you doing? Okay, let's talk about an anime that everyone was convinced was going to be a disaster. Fire Force. Going into the second core of Season 3, a lot of people were worried, and they had every right to be. Now, full transparency, I didn't stick with the anime all the way through. I watched Season 1 when it first ended in 2019, and once that was done, I switched to the manga and followed it all the way to the end. I already knew what was coming, and it didn't grip me enough to go back and watch the anime. Although I will say, I was shocked when it was revealed to be a prequel to Soul Eater, something my good friend L refused to believe, even when I showed him the final pages of the manga. But why was everyone so scared? Well, we learned that this core would be adapting the final 88 chapters in the span of 13 episodes, which is terrifying. For context, most anime adapt 2 to 3 chapters per episode. Sometimes you can get away with 4, but with 5? You're probably pushing it. So if you do the math, Fire Force would be adapting 6.7 chapters per episode, which is the kind of pacing that usually ends in disaster. Especially since we would be getting one of the most anticipated fights in the entire series, Arthur versus Dragon. So yeah, fans were preparing for the worst, yet somehow they managed to pull it off. Now, was it perfect? No. There were casualties, with the most noteworthy example being Arthur and Vulcan playing video games. But they delivered where it mattered, especially with Arthur vs. Dragon, in which they absolutely delivered. While this isn't the perfect adaptation fans dreamed of, it could have been a lot worse, as they stuck the landing better than anyone expected. And hopefully this leads to the Soul Eater remake fans have been begging for, since the original anime never adapted the manga's ending. Now, to wrap up this list, we need to talk about 2 series written by the same author. The man, the myth, AKASAKA. While most mangaka struggle to give us one great series, this one managed to give us 2 back-to-back, which is impressive enough on its own. But what's equally as impressive is that he managed to fumble both of them in completely different ways. Let's start with Kaguya-sama, because just like everyone else, I was shocked when they announced that the anime would be skipping so much content. And this isn't just filler. We're talking about actual payoffs the series has been building towards for ages, such as AKASAKA and Kaguya becoming real friends, more time with Kaguya and Shirogane as a couple, the resolution to Ishigami and Subume's relationship, and the best joke in the entire series, Boy Mikado. All of that brushed aside for an anime original ending, one in which Aka suggested the studio do. While the manga's ending wasn't the best, that's no excuse to skip out on so much of the story. Sure, they could go back and adapt them later, which is something that a lot of shows do now. But my question is this: why not do it right the first time? As by the time we go back, the damage is already done, and all you've done is mess up the flow of the story. And that what makes it so frustrating, as Kaguya-sama is the kind of adaptation most mangakas kill for, yet Aka decided to throw it all away. Which is funny, as going anime original is the only way to save Aka's other series, Oshinoko, as that ending was so bad it sent shockwaves to not only the anime community, but the entire internet, being compared to the likes of Game of Thrones. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. My issue isn't that we got a sad ending. I'm completely fine with them, and in some ways they can be better and more impactful than a good ending. The problem with this one is that it destroyed everything that made the series great. It kills Aqua's character, undoes Ruby's entire arc, and turns Kana from best girl into worst girl. And when Aka had the chance to fix things with a bonus chapter in the light novel, he instead made things worse. The bonus chapter was a nothing burger, and the light novel managed to butcher Akane, leaving Mimchao as best girl by default, as she was the only one not caught in the blast radius. Just like with Kaguya-sama, Oshinoko was also the adaptation most mangakas dream of, and in some ways even more, as it broke through the anime space entirely and became a cultural phenomenon, with its opening song Idol breaking records left and right. And while I do agree that the journey is more important than the destination shouldn't make you regret taking the journey in the first place. Say what you want about Attack on Titan's ending, but at least Isayama acknowledged he messed up and tried to improve it with the anime. I don't see Aka showing the same humility. And while yes, a happy ending would have been nice, but what we all wanted was a good ending. And those two things don't have to be different. Now that we've talked about anime, let's talk about the OPs this season. Because honestly, the OPs were as good if not better than the shows. Now, this was a hard list to narrow down. But nonetheless, here are my top 5 this season. At number 5, we have Lulu from Frieren. While I do like the first 2 OPs more, this one is still pretty good. It perfectly captures the calm, emotional, and reflective vibes of this series, perfectly encapsulated its tone. At number 4, we have Kasuga Nahara from Hell's Paradise. This OP wastes no time. It throws you straight into the action, reminding you of some of the key events that happened last season, as it perfectly captures the desperation our heroes have to escape the island. It's intense in all the right ways. At number 3, we have Kill the Noise from Sentenced to Be a Hero. This one is nothing but pure hype. It nails Zao's desperation and mindset, showing just enough of the cast for the personalities to shine through. With it being capped off with a spectacular action sequence, it's the type of OP that makes you want to watch the series immediately. At number 2, we have Light Me Up from Chain Soldier. What I love about this OP is how it shows off each of the chief's personalities. From Min's cockiness to Tika's big sister warmth, it gets you excited for the season perfectly, teasing you just enough to show you what to expect, without spoiling anything. Its style is energetic and pure hype. At number 1 is Lose the Frames from You and I Are Polar Opposites. This one is ridiculously catchy. If you listen to it once, you immediately want to listen to it again. It perfectly encapsulates the awkward, free-spirit messiness of being a teenager, with it using different set pieces such as Legos to keep things interesting. It's memorable, it's fun, and it's something you'll definitely add to your playlist. And now we arrive at the only list that truly matters, the best girls list. Now, to keep things fair, I'm only going to pick one girl per series, and will try not to let manga events influence me. As if I did, this list would be filled with Chain Soldier and Tune Into the Midnight Horde girls. So let's begin. At number 5, we have Terrorita from Sentenced to Be a Hero. She may look like an innocent girl, but she hits way harder than you expect. She's loyal, expressive, and adorable to watch. Her relationship with Zalu is genuinely sweet, especially as he starts to open up more because of her. Just be sure to reward her with head pats, as she can be very grumpy if she doesn't get her dues. She's adorable, fun to watch, and delivers when it matters most. At number 4, we have Shinobu Uzuki from Tune Into the Midnight Horde. And while this pains me since I am a Rika fan, the anime did do Shinobu more justice, with her scenes being the most accurate to the manga, especially since her arc is the best out of the 4 girls this season. Now, did the anime show bias towards her? Probably, but who am I to judge? She's cute, easily flustered, and is someone you want to see succeed by the end. She earned her spot. At number 3, we have Frieren, everyone's favorite granny elf. And yes, I put her at number 3. She's basically a walking contradiction. She's all-powerful and wise, but at the same time can be completely oblivious and the most immature person in the room, with her embarrassing Fern from time to time. Poor Fern. Her charm is in her duality. She'll act like a literal toddler one moment and then remind you she's one of the most powerful mages alive. She's adorable, iconic, and unforgettable. At number 2, we have Miyu Shizuki from You and I Are Polar Opposites. Her over-the-top expressions and bubbly personality alone carries this series, with her scenes interacting with Tani being the best this series has to offer. She can go from completely confident to completely flustered in seconds, with her attempts at running made me lose it every time it happened. She's expressive, chaotic, lovable, and one of the most entertaining characters this season. At number 1, we have Ren Yamashiro from Chain Soldier, who stands above all. Like I said, she doesn't just dominate every scene she's in, she commits war crimes in them, blowing every other girl out of the water with her presence alone. She's overpowered, confident, sweet, cocky, intimidating, easily flustered, childish, all wrapped into one, with her reward being the best in the series. She isn't just best girl, she's a natural disaster given human form. And that's that for Winter 2026. It was crazy in all the right ways. Well, yeah, a few shows missed their mark, but overall, this season absolutely delivered. But I'm curious, how badly did I piss you off? Let me know down below, because I already know I made some people mad for not talking about My Hero Vigilantes. And if you want more anime videos like this, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn bell notifications on. I'll be more than happy to talk about the ones in spring. Until next time.